Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 11th week of NextGen. We're going to do this a couple more times, and then we're going to take a summer break and have a season 2 starting in September. We'll talk about that more later. Today's topic is really 3 secrets to selling more in 2020, or really how to digital market in the COVID era. So the speakers are going to be Hema Dey and I. And before we do our introductions, I'd just like to remind everybody that Jeff McCausland, who is a retired colonel in the U.S. Army, is going to be speaking next week on organizational culture and change. He's taught at the War College and currently is at Dickerson College. He has a PhD, and I think everybody will really enjoy that talk if you have time. So I'm going to start by introducing Hema, and then Hema's going to introduce me. Hema is a seasoned international marketer who has lived and worked in various parts of the world, including France, the UK, China, Malaysia, and New Zealand. She has over 20 years of experience and expertise in opening markets with SEO to sales, a hyper-focused, financially driven digital marketing formula that enhances and accelerates growth. She was presented World-Class New Zealander Award in 2013 for outstanding work doing international marketing and business development for technology-based manufacturers. There you go.
And Tom Reynolds combines his bachelor's degree in economics from Stanford University with 40 years of hands-on experience as a manager and owner-operator of manufacturing and software development, as well as his own startup in new media, big data software, and marketing. He delivers a unique combination of experience, practical creativity, and insight. Tom implements Smarketing, which combines sales tactics with marketing strategy to increase sales by up to 20%. Our motto is nothing happens until someone sells something.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to get the PowerPoint going here. So hopefully, and I'm going to make my PowerPoint big, I hope. So there we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Good. All right, because I can't see you anymore. So as Hema said, the Reynolds Group does marketing and Eiffel does SEO to sales. We've combined forces because they fit very nicely in terms of increasing revenue for our clients. And I think this is a good way to start, which is never let a good crisis go to waste. And digital marketing is a great way to have some actionability in the COVID era. So we went to a talk, Hema and I, yesterday. Jim Tordahl was the host, and the Chief Science Officer for the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health was speaking about what's going on with Corona, and the question was asked, how long is this going to go on? And he said, at least until the middle of next year, which is June of 2001. This will impact how we all do business. We really have to think about how we're going to mitigate risk. And Hema and I believe that it really is about digital marketing, and it's really changed the landscape of marketing on the internet, and we're going to talk about that. So the other thing I always like to point out is that marketing is the only part of any business that has an ROI. So if you invest those dollars, you want to get the best return on investment you can. So with that, I'm going to throw the microphone over to Hema. She's going to talk about a few things on what's going on the internet. And please turn off your microphones.
So I'm sure you all know Satya Nadella. He's the CEO of Microsoft. And when this report came out from Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, it really struck a chord with me. He said that we've seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months. And this was released in May 2020. So everyone that I've talked to since the shutdown has realized that if they're not visible on Google, visible on a social media platform, visible in any form that is electronic and digital, they're missing out on leads. They're missing out on the opportunity to sell. And I guess the notion that we're facing right now as an opportunity, not so much as a weakness, is that we've gone from an E-nothing economy to an E-everything economy. And if I were to share with you some of the trend lines that we're seeing right now, is that we're seeing e-commerce take off. Now, e-commerce in my world doesn't mean you have to have a shopping cart, especially because we are all either a manufacturer or a distributor or someone in the supply chain business. E-commerce can simply mean business to business electronic commerce. So that's what the E stands for. We work with 3PLs right now and trucking companies that, because they kept investment during COVID-19 to keep the keywords alive and visible on Google, they're actually facing growth right now. Some of them have actually gone into new buildings and are expanding. They're creating jobs for people. So e-commerce is a big one. E-health is another. A lot of our medical clients have gone into telehealth. Some of these doctors didn't know how to do it with HIPAA compliance, but it is something that is streamlined now, and people, the acceleration of that technology and that adoption to actually accept that this is the new norm just happened overnight. So it's an opportunity. E-learning is another one. We have Joe Stevens in the house here. He does training. He used to just focus on in-person training for sexual harassment training and unconscious bias. But now he's pivoted his whole business into e-learning so that he can provide the same value in terms of having professional actors and comedians deliver their training sessions through e-learning methods. And I can go on and on. The other sectors that are really growing are cybersecurity, healthcare infrastructure innovation. I have the whole report here if you want to take a look at that. Next slide, Tom. How customers are searching for you has changed. This is very true. Since the lockdown and we all stayed at home, our kids were with us, we were all locked down and not going out. And guess what happened? I used to never believe really totally in social media, but social media is now a necessary evil as much as it's a pain. If you're not visible and you're not top of mind of these of what you do and how you engage emotionally with your prospect, then you're not being visible to these people. I was talking to another marketing agency. TV ads are also playing a huge role because people are home. So this is a captive audience that you need to go after. The other thing that I wanted to share with you today is that keyword research in my world, because we do search engine optimization, has shifted. There are many different shifts. Like, for example, anything with the word remote or virtual or away, office away or telehealth or stuff like that. If you don't permutate that into your search engine optimization work, you're missing out, because these are popular search terms that are happening in the marketplace. All right, next. So the goal for the second half of 2020 is really, are you visible online? That should be the first question. And if you aren't, you should be. And the way to do that is to really get on that really super highway, which is Google, and make sure that you're visible for the right keywords, the right search terms. And you can do this as a manufacturer, as a 3PL, as an attorney, as a marketing agency. But the key here is to understand what areas you can get laser focus on, because it is a competitive race out there. In April, I would say you had a far better chance, because there were two camps. There were companies that really cut marketing as a budget, and they lost position. And the ones that kept investment in search engine optimization they gained ranks overnight, and they did really well. So if you really want to get onto that freeway and get onto an everything economy, you need to get your sales and marketing strategy in place for the second half of 2020. And don't expect this virus to just miraculously go away. This phenomenon is going to stay even in 2021. So I would highly urge you to also be focused on your customers being the hero. A lot of us love to talk about ourselves because it's the easy thing to do. The harder thing to do is start to think about the types of customers that you want to go after. Put yourself in their shoes, empathize, think how they might think, because that correlates with emotions, and those emotions have to correlate in the way you present yourself online. And I'll share a little bit more about that in the next section of this presentation. Next.
So the most important thing you can do right now is to start thinking like your customer, and they're thinking differently, like Hema pointed out. What's worrying them, what concerns them, what they think the opportunities are. You know, everybody is looking at their business. We did a little process on pivoting. Everybody is looking at their business and saying, where are the opportunities? And like, you know, Winston Churchill said, don't let a good crisis go to waste. You've got to figure out where they are and how you can be that hero. And so building personas, building maybe 3 or 4 personas of the different type of clients, and write down and say, I mean, it's everything from, you know, what's worrying them business-wise to what pictures, what motivation things are they putting on their bulletin boards to keep them going. I mean, really think about emotionally where they are and try to be part of that. And so I always like suggesting to clients that they put themselves through a little process, which starts with, you know, what problems do you uniquely solve, and make a list. And hopefully there's 100 problems you solve, but really focus on the ones that are relevant right now, because that's what people are looking for. The other one is, and this is really important, I'm going to go to the next slide actually, is that marketers must listen like never before. And I always also go back to something that Aristotle talked about, which was this triangle, how to build a story. And so you've got, I think most businesses are really good about building credibility, you know, being experts, having credentials, going out and really doing a great job of saying they are the experts. And they're good at presenting logically why a client should work with them. You know, here are the things we can deliver. These are the unique services. Here are even some of the results that our clients get from what we do. But they really kind of forget what I think the most important part of the marketing equation is, which is the emotional side. And so when you build your story, it's so important that you really look at those personas and where that connection is and how your customer is feeling. Because sales, I always, one of my favorite sales mentors always said, people buy emotionally and they justify logically. So once they've made the purchase, they'll go back and look at the logic and credibility of their decision. But really, it's the emotion that drives the decision process. So what's happened in the last really 5 years, maybe more, is that marketing is kind of taken, is weighing down the scale, that really is where people put all their efforts, and they're beginning to forget the sales side. So MQL stands for marketing qualified leads. SQL stands for sales qualified leads. And we put a lot of emphasis into the marketing side, but it's really critical to also look at the sales side of your marketing program. Again, that's why Hema calls it SEO to sales, and that's why I call it SMarketing. The S really stands for sales, because most companies under $20 million really need to make sure that whole process is balanced. And to balance those things, you really need to have kind of a unified process. So if you look at integrated marketing, you've got all these pieces that you're trying to put together to go out and bring your customer together. And the real trick is to integrate that whole program and kind of a holistic approach to selling more, which starts with looking at your financials, which starts at, you know, understanding those personas, which starts at that emotional connection. So it's really important that you pull together your program, both sales and marketing, so that you've got a unified approach to your customers. So now I'm going to turn the ball back over to Hema.
Well, it's story time. And I'm going to tell you a story this morning. And it may not sound so cool in the beginning because it's about an ingrown toenail. But there's a moral behind the story. About 18 months ago, an accomplished podiatrist who's a surgeon, a foot and ankle specialist, came to me because she had split from the hospital she was working at and she started her own practice. She invested heavily into the decor, the machinery, the technology, and she paid very little to a medical marketing company to do her website and paid them SEO for 6 months. Her phone didn't ring. Her web didn't produce leads. And when she tried to find herself on Google in the cities that she was targeting, she was nowhere to be found. So you can imagine the cost to someone like this when their patients are not coming in and their overhead structures is facing them. She was in panic mode. She got me in for an assessment and I stood at a reception area and I said, what type of patient that I can rank you for on the first page of Google that calls in through this reception area and books your service as a doctor makes you a profit once they leave after treatment. Now keep in mind, she only accepts cash and PPO. So this is not a Medi-Cal kind of situation where they get referrals left, right, and center. So she was very selective, and on the outside, I thought this was going to be surgery, amputation, wound care, the serious cases. She went away. She couldn't answer the question, by the way. She went away. She talked to her CPA. They did the numbers. And she came back and says, Hema, please do not get me surgery. I'm covered in blood for 5 hours. And I make very little profit out of it because everyone in between gets a clip. She says, get me ingrown toenails. I said, okay. Now, I've never had an ingrown toenail, so I had to go away and I studied every possible facet of what emotions go through a patient when they suffer an ingrown toenail. I looked at every image, every light case to serious case, permutated that with diabetics and people with autoimmune disease, permutated that with issues when they go to a nail salon, a regular nail salon, where they're getting in there and digging it up, and then there are cases where it gets infected, and now you're diabetic and you've got gangrene, and then you're in for amputation. I studied it all. I went into every single video out there as well. I benchmarked her against her competitors in the area that treat ingrown toenails. And we developed a content strategy. Admittedly, we had to rejig her website as well. But our content strategy was so laser focused that in 3 weeks, her phone was ringing. Now, remember, I said she only accepts cash and PPO. What happened after 6 months? Her marketing dollars turned into a cash-rich situation. And she reinvested that into a medical foot spa so that these diabetics that are going to the regular nail salon can now come and have safe pedicures, safe treatment. And as of this April with COVID-19, she moved into a larger facility. She's employed a new doctor. She's employed new staff. And we're opening up her wound care center in the Inland Empire. So the moral of the story here is that even if you're manufacturing widgets, if you're manufacturing any kind of product, whether it's robots or anything, it's really important to segment and do your sales analysis as to what are your front runners, what are your dogs, what are your cash cows, what products are really churning profit for your business. And it's really important to correlate this in formulating your sales strategy for search engine optimization. A lot of people come to me and they say they don't have a huge budget. The only way you can negate and mitigate risk around just spending the money and not getting any leads is to get into a laser focused strategy. And why would you spend that on something that's not going to yield you a profit? So understanding that financial model is really, really important. Now, people think that it's a bit of a voodoo doing SEO, but it's not. It's really a science, right? If you don't have the right information out there and the right content about what you do, and it's not relevant, then it's not going to connect emotionally with the human factor. But also you have to remember, when you're doing search engine optimization work, a huge part of that exercise is to educate the Google bots. Now, the bots aren't smart. We need to teach them. We need to train them. We need to feed them regularly what's going on with you. They need to know that you're a functioning business, you're alive, and that you're there to contribute. And that has to be done on an ongoing basis and a steady basis. And some of you would have heard of things like blogs and video blogs, and you say, like, why do I have to do that? Yeah, it's a lot of work. But if you don't do that, then you don't present yourself as an opportunity on the first page of Google. So what is your go-to market business plan? Have you done that? How many of you have got a business plan for the next 6 months? Raise your hand. I don't see many hands getting raised. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I guess so. I'll take it as you guys all have a business plan. Tom, can you go to the next slide, please?
Sure.
So again, let's go back to our motto is nothing happens until someone sells something. And I guess until you have that handshake within your companies and your teams, it's going to be a difficult path forward, especially with everything. And if you're not visible on Google, you're not grabbing market share. Your competitor is. And Tom, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, so just a quick story. I was working with a manufacturer, and we did a marketing review with them and their inbound sales team, and they were looking at doing marketing. But one of the key factors we found that was kind of causing friction in terms of them getting sales was really not in the marketing department, but the inbound marketing team said it's our delivery times. And so we did an analysis, and we worked on their the way they were handling inventory, and they were able to get their delivery times from 28 days down to 11, which was the goal for most of their key products. Now, some of them were custom and they couldn't do it. But part of what marketing and SEO sales is about is to make sure that, we know we can get the leads, but then the next piece is, we do some mystery shopping, and we start with the client and look at how they're handling sales. When clients allow us, we interview their clients, find out, how they're performing, how they're viewed. And then we go back and train the inbound sales team, which is super important. And then make everybody within the organization responsible for sales. So to everybody from the receptionist who answers the phone to the shipping clerk who puts it out the back door knows that they're responsible for sales, that the opportunity to grow the company is they're part of that whole chain. So Emma, do you want to add anything to the sales side of the equation?
No, and I think it has to be a strategy that's being implemented. I think implementation is 99% of the game plan, and you've got to have leadership that's focused on sales. If the social media person is doing one thing and the SEO person is doing something else, and your salesperson is doing something else, it really isn't. It will be a dysfunctional outcome. I mean, I have Michelle Beauchamp in the house this morning. She does all out training for salespeople because I do the mystery shopping myself. And sometimes I would even troubleshoot, scenario one, I'll call up as if I'm going to buy a product. And I don't know if you realize this, but the receptionist or the person answering the phone is the director of first impressions. I mean, how many law offices have you called up and they say, law office? I mean, why would anyone want to do business with that law firm? Unless they're desperate for a solution. welcome to TLD Law or Velasco Law Group. This is a fundamental part of sales that a lot of companies don't have a grasp on. The other thing is how you answer emails, writing your email and closing that deal once the lead comes in from the website. How many of you know how many leads you're getting in from the website? Are you answering them within 24 hours? Are you providing a quote quick enough now that everyone wants it now kind of thing? So it's really important to troubleshoot your entire sales process. And we see this all the time. Sometimes we get the lead for the client and they're too busy to answer it. We do it on their behalf. So it's really important that you look into this.
Okay, so we're going to bring it down to a close here so we can have some questions, because I always try to keep these things to 45 minutes. Just, quick overview of the company. Hema and I, these are kind of the services we provide, everything from marketing to print collateral. We help our clients. If anybody wants the PowerPoint, here's a little review of us. And then, of course, here we are. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And now I can see all of you. And I'm hoping there might be a few questions from some of the things we asked. And I'd appreciate raising your hand or jumping in or start speaking, unmute yourself, ask away. Or have we been so clear?
Jim,
Good morning. Nice job. Both of you were very clear, I thought. But Hema, I have a question for you. How do you go to do ghost shopping for a consulting firm?
So consultants, it's a real fine line, because I'm a consultant as well. And there's certain leads that come into the website that are real dead ducks for us, Jim, because they're really price shopping. Like, I would never want to get a website lead from my website, because they're all time wasters. They're all benchmarking me with somebody that doesn't understand the way we work. So it's really important to find out what your ingrown toenail is, Jim. And the website obviously needs to be compliant and raceable on Google. I call it a freeway. Google's a freeway and your website's a racer. So if you don't have enough pistons, it's not going to move. And then you need to fuel it with content. Now, some consultants choose to pay for advertising. They have money. And if you have the funding to do it, it could work, but you've got to have big bucks to do the advertising. But generally speaking, for consultants, an educational marketing approach to being visible is the way to go to gain that credibility. Videos are a great thing, a YouTube channel. It's doing really well for some of my clients. And yeah, I think you've got to engage again with the right emotions. Start with the customer in mind. A lot of us love to talk about ourselves, and I'm guilty of that too.
Joe, you have a question?
I do. I'm wondering where you start trying to figure out how to market, or where the market is, since things have changed so dramatically in the last 3 or 4 months. Your analysis of a year ago wouldn't be cogent today. You've got to do something different. So how do you start? And maybe part of the question is, what's changed for both of you in your analysis and the way you go forward to marketing and sales?
I'll jump in and then let Hema. But Joe, I think the only way you can do it is pick up the phone and talk to your customers. I've got 2 clients now who are asking me to do it just so they have kind of a third-party person. And we're just taking 10 clients, reaching out and doing a short survey. And it's amazing what you hear. I mean, it's just, what they're worried about, where their problems are. It may be how they're pricing or how your discount struck. I mean, it's just 1,000 different things are coming up that I find really interesting. So I think the first thing you got to do, if you don't have someone else do it, is pick up the phone and call 3 clients and just have a chat, and come up with a list of questions, like my wife is a college counselor and a private college counselor. And she makes the kids have a list of questions they ask every school so that when they go back and do an analysis, they've got something to compare. They're not willy-nilly about how they ask the question. So I think it's super important to do that. And the other thing is to do something that I used to do, which is go to the public library only because it was a place I could hide with no phone and really sit down and think about what I'm hearing from my clients. I think sometimes we're in such a mode to just go to the next project and sell the next thing that we don't stand back and say, what am I really hearing? And really kind of analyze that. You know, we got Lynn Rodham in the house, who is a fabulous marketer from New York. She's waiting, and Mexico. And Lynn, do you have 2 cents to weigh in on this?
Hey, everybody. I would say that, you know, I'm a consultant in the graphic design and communications area. So what I'm seeing right now is a lot of re-messaging and rebranding. This is actually a really good opportunity for clients to get out there with another message. And that is what they're doing in these days to either make people feel comfortable if it's a restaurant or a venue, which is, you know, I work a lot with those types of places. And I think that people really do want to be addressing the issue at hand, which is the time of this pandemic. We need to actually be very upfront with that message first and foremost. So that's been an interesting, busy opportunity for my clients to kind of get another level of engagement out there and what their customers and clients feel safe with. And that's kind of out of the realm of retail, but you have to be able to give them very solid reasons of how you're protecting their health. So it's, you know, interesting when a cosmetic store has to get into more health-related conversations and dialogues. The other thing I'm finding in my marketing is that there's a lot of interesting software opportunities right now with streaming, and OBS software is open. It's called Open Broadcasting Software. It's open source, and it's something that we would use now for meetings and for live streams, where you can actually do a lot of branded moments on a stream that you weren't able to do maybe a few years ago. So I'm seeing a lot of tools change, and I think to be cutting edge in the
Uh-oh.
She's
She
gone.
froze on us. All right. Thank you, Lynn.
I would like to add to that. I think branding is really important, but the messaging, what needs to connect in terms of the dots is the branding, the messaging, SEO, search engine optimization, and ultimately sales. And the nice thing with search engine optimization and Google is that you are able to get the data. I'm very data driven in my process, and we can tell very quickly if you come out with a brand and a message that is spot on and correlated with a keyword, your chances, and our keyword analysis in itself is a job. It shows you the average searches a month, and you can see the shifts post-April this year. But it will also give you can actually use laser focus that into the city of choice or the region of choice that you want to combat in. I call it combat. And then how you actually apply that to your business is super critical. A lot of people think of it as 1 + 1 is 2. But in my world, 1 + 1 could be 6. So it's the art of selling, and it's the art of applying that information and permutating the right brand messages and keywords in your content to ensure visibility. So to answer your question, Joe, I think that it's really important to keep yourself present with what's going on in the macroeconomic sense. Like for your business, the whole issue on Black Lives Matter, unconscious bias, or they call it implicit bias, or diversity issues are so strong right now. Every single permutation of keywords need to be factored into your branding process right now, right? And the fact that you've gone remote has to be hit home hard. And in terms of a content strategy, that has to be a laser focus, a priority for you. I say more so than sexual harassment, although that's the law, but regardless, macroeconomic issues play a huge role in what you have to be focused on today. And it can change in 2 months, believe it or not. So you've got to adapt very quickly. And that's something that a lot of people resist. If you resist,
That's the challenge, isn't it? That it can change so fast.
it's changing really, really fast. I mean, Jasmine, who's here, and Jared, who's here, we've gone through metamorphoses in almost every month with some of our clients. And those hashtags and the keywords, you've got to be on top of it right now. I hope that answers it.
Thank you. Thank you, all three.
Lynn, do you want to finish your thought?
Sorry about that. Actually, that was going to be one of my points, is that your internet signals everything right now.
Yes.
And I'm in Mexico, so I have the added bonus of the inconsistent signal. But no, I was just trying to explain that I think we're going to see a lot of software tools that are going to propel certain businesses if they're used correctly, and others will be left behind. So if you don't look into what some of the trends are right now, which is, as I was explaining, live stream is huge. And that is really a level of professionalism that can be so different depending on what tools you're using and how good you are at it. And there's a lot of creativity going into live stream right now. I feel like it's the next wave of interactive art. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, we just have to look to very specific ways on how we can set ourselves apart. And I do think software is going to be something to very much look for in terms of meetings like this, and how to guarantee that you're going to be a little bit over your clients with your sophistication level with the tools.
Right.
So,
Right. Thank you.
yes, thanks. Sorry about that.
No worries. Any other questions today? Yes, Jim, fire away.
What are the best systems for tracking the success of SEO to sales?
Shall I answer that, Tom?
Sure, go ahead.
So system is one aspect of it. The first aspect of it is to understand the process. And the reason here is that because a lot of people say, oh, I need a CRM. And I have to wait till I get the CRM to do everything. But the truth, the moment of truth is that when you get a lead, you want to keep that lead, you want to nurture it till you can say, one, that I won this case or I lost this case, right? And how you nurture it could be email marketing, it could be emails, it could be a quote, it could be a presentation. How you log that information, it could be done on a spreadsheet. And a lot of my simple clients, that's all they do for me. I share a Google spreadsheet with them, and I give them the cells they need to populate. The receptionist gets a call, they put it in real time. I can see, and one column that I'm really particular on is what keyword did they search? And if they enter that in, I can actually correlate it right back to some of the SEO work that we put together, SEO to sales work that we put together. Now, if you want to get a little bit sophisticated, there are plenty of CRM programs out there for manufacturers and
What does CRM stand for?
Customer Relationship Management. Sorry. And for manufacturers, a lot of you have ERP systems. And some of these...
What's ERP?
Actually, I don't know what it stands for right off the top.
Enterprise Resource Planning.
There you go. Thank you, Jim. So it'd be nice to have everything integrated, right? But quite often, a lot of manufacturers have a very archaic ERP system. And so it doesn't have an API output. But so CRM...
What's API?
What do you say?
API. It's a gateway. API. It's a gateway between software products. I forget what the acronym is, though.
No, if someone in the house knows what it is, because I'm all about the
programming interface.
Thank you.
So now a good, but the CRM is only as good as the information people put in it. And it's only as good as whether the team uses it collectively. Now, if you're going to have a CRM and not enter data, well, it's not going to be very effective. So don't spend the money on it.
Which are the best systems?
So so I have fallen in love with one that is being engineered by a company here in California. It's called Optify now. And it's, you know, they can customize it to your business needs. And I like it because the tech team is actually here in Seal Beach, and they do everything white glove. But you'll hear companies have done who use things like Salesforce or HubSpot. These are very big names. They're expensive, and if you start to become a slave to the system, then you've got a problem. And a lot of companies
Yeah,
become
Emma,
a slave.
Emma,
Sorry.
I agree with you. We use HubSpot. We use the free version, and it provides us with everything that we need.
Right.
So, but you're right. Salesforce and the premium versions of HubSpot can make you a slave and be very expensive, especially Salesforce.
And to add to that a little bit, I think a lot of people who have ERP systems, the ERP companies say they have a CRM in them. And there's a big difference between a marketing CRM and an ERP CRM. And so you do need something like Jim is talking about, or Hem is talking about. And I really think that companies have to address this. Again, it's that software issue that Lynn was talking about. These are the kind of tools that can automate and save time and really set up a little drip system. So for example, a client will buy a particular product. I'm going to call it R410A. It's a type of refrigerant material for valves. And they buy one. Well, you can drip them and say, you know, we sell other ones of those too with other applications, because it's just an opportunity, and it's an automated system. It's selling other things you do without having you do anything in a related channel. So these are things that I really think you have to address and manage, you know, not become a slave, but be disciplined.
Yeah.
Other questions? This has been great. Well, we've got 2 minutes.
Hey, Tom and Hema, this is really great. I really enjoyed it.
Great.
You kind of implied that there's more coming, but I only know about this one.
Oh, yes. Well, we've been doing this for 12 weeks. This is the 11th one. We've got another one coming up next week with Colonel Jeffrey McCausland, who's a fascinating, he's the guy you all want to have a beer with. You know, he's been in every barrack in the United States. He's a very open-minded military fellow and has a very interesting perspective on leadership and change. I highly recommend coming. You also hear his voice on KCBS if you're listening to news radio. He is their expert on foreign affairs and military actions. I'm going to take a break with this program through the middle of September because I just don't want to wear myself or you guys out. But we have a whole series of programs we're going to do, and I hope you'll join us on that. We may do one more after this. I'm still debating what we're going to do, but I don't want to wear my friends out who've all attended this, and I really appreciate you guys coming, and I hope it's been useful to you. So.
Will you send us notices?
Great job, guys.
Can we
Great
use the
job.
same one?
Yes, I will. You will get an email from Hema and I and Linda
Great.
Feinholz. Linda's here. Linda does a fabulous job of helping companies build value. She gave a great talk last week. It's up on the website if you want to hear it, on all the drivers that can build value in a business that help you get better bank loans to helping you sell your business, the whole spectrum. So
I've got a question for Jim. Are you going, Jim?
Which Jim?
The Gitney.
so I can't hear you, Jim.
I think he left.
Okay, no, I'm here. Hema.
I wanted for you to share very quickly with the group. Are you seeing any trends in the blockchain technology in filtering through our sectors, manufacturing, distribution, this supply chain?
So to be quite honest with you, the uproar, the roar around blockchain has become deafening silence.
Okay.
Right now, in the food industry, it's still going strong, but in most other places, blockchain in most other manufacturing facilities, blockchain is still an interesting idea, but isn't compelling enough for people to make the significant investments they have to make in order to implement it. Now, we do have 2 blockchain projects we're working on around identity and identity validation, but inside of manufacturing and distribution, it's pretty much gone silent.
Okay, thank you for that.
Now, IoT, on the other hand, is a completely different story.
Which stands for?
Internet of Things. I got that one.
Or I like to call IOE. Do you want to take a guess at what IOE stands for, Tom?
Internet of everything? I don't know.
Internet of everything. There you go. Good seeing you all.
Yeah.
Thank
Hey,
you.
thank you all for coming. Please come next week. I think you're going to love Jeff McCausland. And have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye, everyone.